All the information shared in this video is available on the public platform. Nothing is discussed here which may breach the confidentiality of our armed forces. Defense Detective respects our defense forces and works only on the information that is available for public use.
Chinese Defense Ministry spokesperson W. Qian warned at a press briefing on 25 April that the US deployment of an intermediate missile system in the Asia-Pacific could prompt China to respond with decisive measures. He warned, "We resolutely oppose the US move to deploy intermediate-range ballistic missiles in the Asia-Pacific. Our position has been clear and consistent. US steps are posing a major threat to the security and stability of regional players and will inevitably prompt a decisive response from China." The US Army Pacific announced in mid-April that for the first time, the US has stationed the Mid-Range Capability (MRC) missile system, or the Typhoon, in the northern Philippines. The system is unique and lethal as it is capable of firing both Tomahawk and Standard Missile 6, SM-6. The SM-6 missile is 3 missiles in one. It's the only weapon that can perform anti-air warfare, anti-surface warfare and ballistic missile defense or sea-based terminal missions. In January 2016, the USS Reuben James reportedly fired an SM-6 at a target ship, sinking it. Nonetheless, there are reasonable questions about the role of SM-6 in future surface warfare. Its smaller warhead limits the SM-6 capability against larger surface ships. Because it has been designed for demanding anti-air and ballistic missile defense missions, SM-6 is also relatively more expensive than other naval surface warfare weapons at $3.5 to $4 million per missile. The deployment took place from Lewis McChord Air Force Base on 7 April to participate in Exercise Salaknip 24. The US kicked off the drills with the Philippines, a seasoned ally in the region, on 8 April. It is noteworthy that the deployment was planned well in advance and was not an impulsive measure. Earlier, General Charles Flynn, the commanding general of the US Army Pacific, confirmed the potential deployment of a new medium-range missile launcher during a media briefing held at the US Embassy in Tokyo on 3 April.
Together as teammates are the great counterweight to some of the irresponsible, insidious, and incremental behavior of the threats that are present here in this region.
General Flynn said that, "I'm not going to discuss what system, and I'm not going to say where and when. I'm just saying that there will be a long-range precision fire capability that will come to the region." China, on its part, has carried out a relentless buildup of powerful missiles capable of targeting US military installations. However, it has accused the US of militarizing the region and turning into an anti-China clique to counter the country's rising influence. It has gone so far as to insinuate that the US is using Manila as a pawn in its great power rivalry with China, currently unfolding in the Asia-Pacific. Shortly after the US announced Typhoon's arrival in the Philippines, the Chinese state-owned Global Times carried a report stating, "If the US is the absolute master of anything, it is the art of persuading others to willingly serve as its cannon fodder." At this very moment, the US is speeding up its effort to send the Philippines into the line of fire. The deployment has caused unrest in the region. It comes in the wake of rising tensions between China and the Philippines, which remain marred in territorial disputes in the South China Sea. While China has remained embroiled in an active territorial conflict with Manila for more than a decade, it has become particularly belligerent in recent times, frequently engaging and attacking the Filipino Coast Guard vessels and civilian ships. The United States has offered unconditional support to the Philippines against Chinese aggression in the region. US President Joe Biden recently told Filipino President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. that their alliance was ironclad and emphasized that their mutual defense treaty covered attacks on the Filipino military forces.
And the United States also remains ironclad in our commitment to the defense of the Philippines, including the South China Sea, and we're going to continue to support the Philippines' military modernization goals.
Biden also said that any attack on Philippine aircraft, vessels, or armed forces in the South China Sea would invoke a mutual defense treaty. China is furious with Typhoon in its backyard. The Typhoon system can launch various missiles, including the Tomahawk cruise missile, which has a range exceeding 1,600 kilometers, and the new SM-6 interceptor missile. The Typhoon can fire a Tomahawk to obliterate a target on land or at sea. Additionally, the SM-6 installed on Typhoon is designed to be used mainly as a short-range ballistic missile against land and sea targets. Estimates of the SM-6 range vary. Its official published range is 240 kilometers, but it could be anywhere from 370 kilometers to as much as 460 kilometers. On December, the USS Laboon shot down 3 anti-ship ballistic missiles in the Red Sea fired by Houthi rebels with multiple SM-6. This was the first intercept of a ballistic missile in combat. On 30th January 2024, the USS Carney shot down an anti-ship ballistic missile in the Gulf of Aden fired by Houthi rebels with an SM-6. This was the first combat interception of a ballistic missile publicly acknowledged by the DoD. The Army has described it as a strategic weapon system that would be used against more important targets such as air defense facilities and command and control centers. The deployment of the system is significant for multiple reasons. First, all land-based missiles, conventional and nuclear, with a range of 500 to 5,500 kilometers, were forbidden under the 1987 Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, INF, between the US and the former Soviet Union. However, in 2019, the US withdrew from the INF, and the US Army and Marine Corps immediately began large-scale efforts to develop entirely new medium-range missiles. With a military confrontation between China and the United States looming big, these missile systems are now regarded as viable weapons against China in the Indo-Pacific. Some media reports and military watchers suggest that the system could be deployed in Luzon for military drills. Northern Luzon is situated along the first island chain that divides mainland Asia from the Pacific. The system was stationed in this location for the Salaknib drills. Reports suggest that the United States is investigating the permanent deployment of this system to the Indo-Pacific region, although the details are currently sketchy. The Typhoon would give the US military greater flexibility and options to hit targets on land, at sea, and in the air throughout the vast expanses of the Indo-Pacific area in any hypothetical high-end battle, especially against China. Moreover, this strategic move is poised to serve as a vital deterrent against potential threats posed by China's military advancements. This is essentially why the deployment of the system has enraged China.